Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk about frugality. In particular, I want to talk about practical frugality. I know that we are all feeling the pinch with grocery prices, in particular, just cost of living going up, 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 and we are all trying to find a way to make our dollars stretch as far as possible. I wanted to talk about some of the habits that I have adopted that have helped me stretch my dollar and just find a way to get through this very expensive, crazy world we live in. So, first, let's define what practical frugality is. Think of practical frugality as a balanced approach to frugality where you take an intentional approach to how you spend your money and how you manage your finances. Think of it as telling your money where to go versus wondering where it went. And again, it's not the same as extreme frugality. Now, extreme frugality has its place. Now, this is where you are absolutely bare boning it, just knuckling down and spending as little as possible and being as extreme as possible in being frugal. And it has its place, when you lose a job, when there's an unexpected bill, when, just the ends aren't meeting. We definitely have to be more extreme about these things. And there's a time and a place for that sort of thing. But when extreme frugality becomes a permanent, ongoing lifestyle, that's where I think the problems come in. Because when you tell yourself, certainly when I tell myself I can never spend money on this, I can never do that, that becomes the thing or things that I can't stop thinking about, focusing on, obsessing about. And it is a very difficult way to live every day of your life. For those of us who are fortunate enough, certainly fortunate enough, and privileged enough to be making a decent living, but we're still having issues where there's more month than money at the end of the month. Then we have to look at ways to manage our finances a bit better, be better stewards of our money, just be more intentional about what our spending is. And that's where practical frugality comes in, because that's a way to live your life on an everyday basis where you are not constantly worrying about your money because you've got a plan. And that's what practical frugality is. It's habits that you put in place, planning that you do so that you're not always reactive, you're being proactive. So I'm going to give you my 10 sort of top tips. These are the 10 things that I do, habits, just ways of living that I have in place that I have just made part of my life, that have really helped me be more intentional with my money, and reduce my stress. When it comes to money, I think the number one stressor in relationships and in life in general is money and the lack of it, or the uncertainty of, sort of planning with money. And then health, I think, comes in second. So here's my top 10 tips for practical frugality, and hopefully one or more of these is new to you and helps you. Okay, number one, and this might not be a surprise to some of you, make a budget. You have to have a budget. If you do not know how much is going out, then you cannot have a plan. And wishful thinking is not a plan. So you have to have a budget, whether you write it down on paper, whether you do it on a computer, whether you do have an app like Every Dollar or something like that. I don't care. You just have to have a budget. You have to. There's no other way to manage your money, unless you're one of these uber fortunate people who has so much money coming in that you do not have to think about it. This is not the video for you. You're not watching this channel, likely, and you're certainly not watching this video. But for the rest of us, the majority of us, we need to know. And if you don't have information, you can't make decisions. And you need accurate information. So you need a budget, absolutely. And you need to have taken 3 to 6, I would say 6 months of looking back at your bank records online and sort of categorizing what you've been spending on different categories. There will be different categories. There will be your fixed expenses and your discretionary expenses. The fixed expenses are the ones you can't do anything about and likely you can't reduce, but you can try. There are some things obviously you can do to try, but these are the fixed expenses. That's your housing costs. That would be your rent or your mortgage, your property taxes, your house insurance, your utilities, your car payment if you have one, your car insurance, your health insurance if you're paying that. These are fixed expenses. They come every month. They're the same every month, pretty much, except for those utilities. But they're the ones that happen every month, no matter what, and they're on the same day every month. Those are pretty easy to figure out. Then there's what's called the discretionary expenses. These are the things that change every month. That's groceries, eating out, gas, entertainment, shopping for the kids, things like that. They're the ones that happen. They're different amounts every month. They happen at different times throughout the month. And they're the ones that we have the most control over. And they're really important. So you need to know what those expenses are, how much you've been spending, because that gives us our starting point. So those are the expenses. Then you need to know how much you're bringing in. Your income, your salary, your hourly wage, your commissions on average, your incomes. And that has to be after taxes, not before taxes, because you don't have it all to spend. The government's going to get some of that. And there will be automatic deductions for life insurance and things like that that come off your paycheck. Again, those are fixed expenses and you need to factor those in. So what is landing in your bank account every pay period, whether that's monthly, twice a month, bi-weekly, doesn't matter. What is landing in your bank account? That is your income. And those are the two amounts that you need. Once you've figured out what you're spending, then you need to make a budget and decide, okay, what is a reasonable amount to be spending on groceries? What is a reasonable amount on average to be spending on gas and things like that? And then write that down, put it somewhere. And then every month look back at what you actually spent versus what you said you were going to spend, wanted to spend, and make adjustments. But here's the thing. You pay your fixed expenses, you pay yourself first after that. What is that? That's debt. That's a fixed expense as well, but I want us to be thinking about how much more can we add on that. We always want to pay, if possible, more than our minimum payment on our credit cards and things like that. Your mortgage, that's just happening in the background. That's a fixed expense. But that, you know, that credit card bill, if you can make an extra payment, even if it's $25 every pay period, you put an amount down and you make a plan for that. And that comes before the discretionary expenses. So you've got your fixed expenses, you've got your debt, and you're going to pay that extra amount. You're going to plan for an extra amount every pay period to that debt. You're going to pay yourself first, and that includes paying your debt down. And then you're going to pay yourself as well in an emergency savings account. So you're going to start putting money aside, whether it's $25 a pay period, $50 a pay period. I put $200 a month pay period into my emergency fund. And when it gets to a certain amount, then I take that and I put it into an investment. But I always pay myself first. And that's really important because you're going to have car maintenance that's going to come up. You're going to have house maintenance that's going to come up. There's going to be an unexpected bill, an expense. Maybe you have to take a trip to visit a family member who's sick or for a funeral, something like that. And that's why you pay yourself first as well. This is my philosophy, and I can get deeper into that, but this is just sort of 1,000-foot view at that. And then whatever's left goes into your discretionary expenses. So that's groceries, food out, just sort of life, right? And so whatever's left is what you have to spend, because you can't spend more than zero. Once it gets to zero, there's no more spending, because we're not going to use our credit cards. And that's why I think it's important to use cash. Like, I like to have cash. I like to have my budget, take my cash out. I have little dividers in my wallet for different categories so that I know what I'm going to spend. And for me, it's hard to hand off cash, right? Because once it's not in my wallet anymore, I can really see it. If I'm using my debit cards, then it's like I'm sort of keeping a running total in my head, but it's not a very accurate way for me to function. So for me, cash is really a useful tool, because I don't want to hand it out and have that empty. And so it's a way of keeping accountable. And if there's extra left at the end of the pay period that I haven't spent, then I tuck it away in a little jar. And so when I need to spend more the next pay period or the next month or whenever, or I want something a little extra, then I can grab it, right? Because it's sort of my free money that I can use however I want. So that's how I sort of approach it. And in that budget for like discretionary spending, I give myself a little allowance. Maybe it's $20 a month, maybe, or a pay period, maybe it's 50. I don't know what your budget is. I don't know what your income is. I don't know what your expenses are and how expensive it is where you live. But always give yourself an allowance, because again, this is about living frugally, not surviving frugally. That's not what we're talking about today. So, number one tip, and I think this is the most important tip ever, is have a budget. Make yourself a budget. Know what's has been going out. Plan for what will be going out. Know exactly what's landing in your bank account, and then pay yourself first, and the rest you can figure out. Tip number 2 is cook more or most of your meals at home. This is one that gets talked about a lot, but I think it's really important, because for the price of one even takeout meal, you can buy a lot of groceries and make a lot of meals at home. And so this is a really important point. I would consider doing a project pantry challenge. That's where you take an inventory of your fridge, your pantry, your freezer, all of your food inside the house, and then go through your favorite meals. Like families all have their favorite meals that they have on rotation, right? Maybe it's shepherd's pie, maybe it's curries, maybe it's, I don't know, whatever you make that are favorites. And go through your pantry and see what ingredients you have. Plan some meals. You're going to meal prep here. You're going to say, for this week, we're going to have these 3 mains, and then or 4 mains or whatever. And then we're going to eat leftovers, and we're going to take leftovers for lunch. Plan for lunches, plan for breakfast. Use what's in your pantry, and then make your shopping list for what additional items you need to flesh out those meals. But make those meals. And when you make those meals, make extra. You can freeze those extras in meal-sized portions, or you can use those extras for lunches. But it's important to meal prep and batch cook. I think that's really important. And eat what you've got at home. This doesn't need to be fancy cuisine, right? If you bought it, eat it. If you made it, eat it. Yeah, you might get a little tired of it. That's why, maybe you make a stew one night, and then the next night maybe you make a pasta dish and you eat that stew for lunch, but then you don't eat it for dinner. You make that pasta dish, and then day 3 you have the stew again. Maybe you serve the stew over mashed potatoes this time, or rice, or something like that. So you alternate, and maybe you can sort of tweak it, but you're going to eat it. And if it gets to day 3 and you know you're not going to eat it all, you're going to freeze it. And then you're going to have it later, and you're going to have it in a little meal-sized container that you can pull out of the freezer and take with you for lunch, to work, or have, for a snack or a quick dinner on a day when you don't feel like cooking. So you're going to eat what you have at home. Just keep it simple. Stick with the basics, right? Potato, pasta, rice, other grains, wraps. That's the sort of base. And then you Add in vegetables. Now, if they're in season, they're going to be less expensive, right? So buy what's in season at your store, and if everything's really expensive, go with the frozen vegetables, because frozen vegetables are frozen, flash frozen at peak freshness. They haven't been transported for days before they get to your, so picked unripe, then artificially ripened, and then to get to your grocery store. So frozen vegetables can be phenomenal. Even canned vegetables can be phenomenal, and if you can get them on sale at the dollar store or something like that. And then add in a healthy protein, right? Lentils, beans, tofu. All three of those are really high in protein, very healthy, high in fiber, and inexpensive, because I don't eat meat, but from everything that I see in the stores and people that I talk to that do, it's really darn expensive. Meat, eggs, very expensive. So just buy those basics and put them together, and then season your food. Spices and sauces can make a huge difference, but don't overcomplicate it. Just build a number of recipes and meals that your family likes that you can have on rotation, with ingredients that are staples and easy to find and inexpensive to buy, and cook at home as much as possible, because let's face it, we know it's going to be cheaper. Tip number 3, shop smart. When you go to your grocery store, go with the list. That's where this project pantry is really such a valuable thing to do, because you now have, you know what you've got, and you know where the gaps are, right? If you're going to be making biscuits or homemade bread, and you don't have enough flour or yeast or baking soda or baking powder, things like that, then you know you need to pick some up. And so you'll have a list when you walk into a grocery store, and you'll have a plan. We aren't wandering up and down the aisles just sort of going, oh, I guess I'll grab this, or oh, I guess I'll grab that. Have a list, make sure, and then itemize that list for the different stores, right? Like, I'm going to start at the dollar store first. I'm always going to start at Dollar Tree or Dollarama first. Why? Because I can get certain things there super cheap. So I'm going to start there first and see if they have pasta at a really good price, or even rice at a very good price, because not everybody can buy in these huge bags. Not only maybe you don't have the money for it, maybe you don't have the room to store it. So start at the dollar stores first, so you'll know what ingredients you normally see at the dollar store. So have them on the list in that order. Okay, I'm going to go to Dollarama for these things, and then I'm going to go to Superstore or whatever store you have, your most like best priced grocery store, and then you're going to get the other things and categorize them into areas. But you're going to go with a list, and you're going to decide which stores are going to have the best things. And then I'm going to say, should have said this first, don't go shopping hungry. Make sure you eat before you go. Have a good meal that's substantial, so you're feeling full, because when we're hungry, we make bad choices at grocery stores. Let's face it. So when you're going shopping, have something to eat before you go. Go with the list. Shop store brands. There is no reason to buy a name brand unless it's something specialty that you have to have. But in general, for the majority, 99% of the things that are on my grocery list, if I can buy a store brand or a generic brand, I'm going to buy it. The fact is, the majority of these items are made in the same factories by the same manufacturers as store brands or name brands, right? They're just a fraction of the price. Obviously, price compare, and if there's a sale on the name brand, that makes it a better price or equal to, if you want to, buy the name brand. But in general, for the things that really don't matter, buy the generic brands. Buy in bulk if you can. If you have access to a bulk store, or there's a section in your store for bulk items. Compare the price per 100 grams or per ounce or whatever, per liter, to make sure it is a deal. But in general, when you're making a recipe and you only need a little bit of something, you don't need to buy a big container of it. So Shop the bulk stores. Like I love Bulk Barn. I go to Bulk Barn a lot. I buy my nutritional yeast there. I buy my raw cashews there. I buy a lot of things there because the prices are just so much better and I can buy exactly what I need. Sugar, all of those things, spices, certain spices. So shop the bulk stores. And if you have the time and you have like an instant pot, buy dry beans and cook them in your instant pot and then freeze them in, 1 or 2 cup servings. And so you always have them in your fridge. Now, I don't, there's nothing wrong with buying tinned beans. I certainly always have some in my pantry for when I just want something really fast and I don't have anything frozen in my freezer. But the fact is that cooking your beans from dry in an instant pot where you don't have to soak them, then they're going to be more nutritious and they're going to taste better and they're going to be a fraction of the cost of even canned beans. So shop for ingredients versus finished dishes, if at all possible. There's nothing wrong with buying convenience foods if that fits into your budget or if you really don't have the time. But ingredients are always going to be cheaper than buying the finished meal. And when you buy a bag of flour, when you buy a bag of rice, when you buy a thing of pasta, when you buy the coconut milk and the ingredients for a curry, you're going to end up with much more for a fraction of the cost than that one individual pre-made meal. I've got lots of recipes for things like that on the channel. For some of you, that's just not practical. And we're talking about practical frugality here. For some of you, you've got too much going on for to be making things from scratch. But if at all possible, even for a couple of things, a couple of meals, making things from scratch, because by buying the ingredients is going to save you so much money and give you so much more food for your dollar that you can then, again, have for multiple meals, have for lunches, and freeze for future meals. Tip number 4 is to, and I do this, I do this on a regular basis. I don't leave the house without a reusable water bottle, like a refillable water bottle, one of my metal ones. And I take a snack. I will take a granola bar, breakfast bar, something with me. Because when I get hungry, I get hangry. And when I'm dehydrated, then I think I'm hungry and I get a headache. And the last thing you want to do is to be out and about doing errands. And then all of a sudden be dehydrated, be starving, because I'm going to make bad decisions, right? I'm going to go through a drive-thru. I'm going to buy an overpriced bottle of water or drink in a plastic bottle. And when I could have just brought something from home. And when you make a habit of doing that, you can be a big thermos cup with your coffee or tea or whatever you want. But when you leave the house, always have something to drink with you. And you can keep snacks in your car if you want, or you can just grab one on your way out the door, but have also something to eat so that if you're out and about and you get hungry or you get thirsty, you have something so you'll save money and you'll be healthier. And we should all be, most of us are dehydrated to some extent. We should all be better hydrated anyways. So practical, frugal tip number 5. Spend more time outside, because when we're bored, we're tempted to spend money. Being outside in nature is so healthy for our physical health and our mental health. So, and going for a walk is free, right? We can go outside and go for a walk, even when the weather's crappy. And I would argue that when we come back from being out for a walk when it's raining or snowing, when the weather's crappy, we have a much bigger sense of accomplishment. And maybe that's even a little bit healthier because it makes our body work a little bit more. But going outside, going for a walk is super healthy. Like I'm just looked out my window and there's hummingbirds at my bird feeder. In the morning, every morning, unless it's raining outside, I grab my coffee, my first cup of coffee in the morning, and I sit on my front stoop and I just listen to the birds wake up the world. And I watch the hummingbirds at the feeder. And I look up at the trees and see the wind going through the branches. And it is such a calming, wonderful, healthy thing to do. And it's also free. And so going for a walk, going to your local parks, exploring new nature trails, go on your community websites or Facebook groups and look for free events. Often there will be free things happening in the parks, different festivals and things like that that don't cost anything, farmers markets, things like that. Getting outside is a wonderful way of making us feel like we're living a good life, and not without spending any money. So and this is another time where you take something to drink and take something to snack on, or pack a little lunch in a bag with a ice pack, so that when you go to the park, when you go to these festivals or something like that, you have a snack, you have a lunch, you have a drink. Grab a book, grab a blanket, get outside. All of those things are free. And maybe you don't live on a street with a park or where you can walk. Maybe you have to drive there. Like I have to drive to the ocean. I can walk to the river. I can't walk to the ocean. I have to drive there. But once I'm there, then I can spend as much time as I have or want enjoying this beautiful place, and it doesn't cost me anything. Spend more time outside. I think that is really important, and it is such a great way of having experiences without spending any money. Tip number 6. Spend more time with friends and family. But when you do, plan activities that don't cost anything. Do not make wandering the mall your like an activity. I stopped doing that, oh my gosh, probably 8 years ago, maybe even more. And now when I walk into a mall, it feels really weird. But I used to do this all the time. I used to window shop all the time. And then inevitably I would leave the mall with something. Not only would I have eaten at the food court because I was hungry and didn't bring something, but I would also see something, usually something on a super sale on a rack that I didn't really need, didn't even really want, but it was such a good price that I couldn't pass it up, right? Don't make shopping the activity you choose with friends. Go for a walk. I love doing this. I have a friend, we've done this multiple times, where we make a plan, we meet somewhere, we go for a nice long walk, and then we have lunch or a snack. And each of us will have brought something, right? Somebody will bring a wrap, like a sandwich in a wrap or something like that. Somebody else will bring a dip and some veggies or muffins, something like that. And then we just sit and we have our lunch. We have great conversations. We've done something physical. We've breathed fresh air, and we have enjoyed our time together. And it didn't cost anything extra. We just took some ingredients we had at home, made something to bring to share, and we've had this amazing experience that didn't cost anything. Now, I'm not saying that there's not value in going to movies or concerts or things like that. Absolutely there is. But that doesn't need to be every single time. Camping is a fantastic activity to do with friends, and it's inexpensive when you compare it to staying at hotels, resorts, that sort of thing. And so just think of those sorts of things. Spend more time with people you love, but do it in a way where you are not spending a bunch of extra money, and you are still having the experiences. Because for me, experiences with the people I love and just in general are so much more valuable than stuff. So think of it that way. Tip number 7 is save on utilities. And in brackets, I'm going to put, your dad was right. At least my dad was right. My dad used to lose his mind if he came into a room and all the lights were on and nobody was in it. Or if he came home and a bunch of stuff was on, TV was on, lights were on, and nobody was there. And now I get it, because while we have to pay to heat and cool our homes, we have to pay to have our utilities. So often, especially now with the technology that we have, there's so many things in our homes, especially with power, that are drawing power just sitting idle, right? That's anything that you can turn on with a remote control is drawing power even when it's off, because it has to be on in order for the remote control to turn it on, right? So the TV, like my TV here in my bedroom, I unplug it in the morning when I get up. I often watch TV before I go to bed if I'm not reading, and then in the morning I unplug it so it stays unplugged throughout the day. My toaster oven, I unplug throughout the day. My little electric fireplace stays unplugged unless I'm going to use it. I unplug chargers and things like that, like for my laptop and such. There's so many things we can do that we can start to minimize our energy consumption. LED bulbs in all of the lights inside the house, including the ones that were built in to the house. Often in the past, they would have been halogen bulbs, which not only use up a lot more energy but are a lot hotter. All the lights in the house are LED, including my little string lights. Every light bulb in every light in a fixture is an LED. And that makes a huge difference. You don't think about it, but all these little things add up. Also, in the winter, well, or any time when I leave the house, all the lights are off. And in the winter, when I leave the house, I turn the heat way down. Like I like to, and at night in the winter, I turn the heat right down. I keep my house at about 14 degrees Celsius at night, 14 to 15. For some of you, that might seem really cold, but I actually like to sleep in a cold room because I like to bundle on blankets and comforters. And so I feel much cozier when I've bundled up. And so I turn the heat way down at night, and I certainly turn the heat down when I leave the house, because there's no point heating an empty house. Even when Sophie was here, and I miss having her on the bed, while I'm having this conversation, I've been thinking about the fact that she would normally be right here. But even when I had my kitty cat, they have a fur coat, and she always slept under the quilt on my bed during the day anyways. So I could easily turn the heat way down, and that wouldn't affect her at all. So have your lights off when you're not in a room. Turn off all your lights when you leave the house. Unplug items that are drawing phantom power. Turn your heat way down at night and when you're out of the house. And if it's hot and you have air conditioning, turn the temperature up on your AC when you're not home. In the morning, like even here when it's going to get to 31 degrees Celsius during the day, first thing in the morning, well, I sleep with my windows open at night because I have a portable air conditioner, but this year I haven't turned it on once, and usually it only comes on once or twice a year. But this year, set myself a challenge to not have it on at once at all. And so first thing in the morning when it's still cool outside, I open all the windows on both sides of the house, so I have lots of cool air coming in. And then because the sun comes up on this side of the house, and then in the afternoon it's over here, and that's when it's the hottest time of the day. So by mid-morning-ish, I have already closed all the windows on this side of the house. I've closed all the blinds, and I've taken Reflectix. Just think Reflectix are, you can get those Reflectix shields for your windshield of your car. You can even buy just a great big one of those. And I tuck it behind my blind against the screen, so it's sort of held there. On the windows, including the one above my desk when the sun comes right around. I have a piece that I've cut that fits in there, and I put it behind the curtain because just having the curtain closed isn't enough. I still feel a lot of that heat coming in. And so I also take my patio umbrella and open it up and angle it so it's in front of the big window that's in my kitchen on that side above the eating bar, because a lot of sun comes baking in there and it just warms that side of the house up. And so doing those things has really made a difference. So by the time late afternoon, early evening comes and I can open my door and just have the air and the windows on this side. The house is not super heated up. Have your ceiling fans on. Try and, especially when you're not in the house, lower up your AC temperature. Use ceiling fans. I even have this little USB one here in my bedroom because there's not a ceiling fan in the tiny house bedroom here, but I do have one in my living room. I keep those on during the day. All of those things keep the house nice and cool in the summer, and then in the winter I just, like I say, lower my furnace temperature. Those things have made a huge difference in lowering my utility bill. I don't pay for water here, but if I did and I had a leaking tap, I'd make sure to get that fixed. Just those sorts of things. For me, electricity, hydro is my utility that I pay. And so making sure that I keep that as low as possible is my goal. That's one where it's technically fixed because you have to pay it, but it's discretionary in that we have some control over it. And I would say that it's harder when you have family and kids because there's a lot of devices on, a lot of things on at all times. But getting in the habit of unplugging things like video games, anything that draws phantom power, and a lot of those do, even if they don't have a remote, just unplug them or plug them all into a power bar. And then all you have to do is switch the power bar off at night or when you're not using it. It's not super hard. It's an easy tip that can make a huge difference a little bit at a time. All right, tip number 8, hang your clothes to dry. Even in the winter, I hang my clothes to dry. Now, in the summertime, I hang them outside. I don't have a clothesline. My neighbor does. If I had a clothesline, they would be on a clothesline. When I was a kid, my mom had a clothesline, and she would hang our clothes to dry outside. The sheets, everything went outside on the line. We had a dryer. She hardly ever used it. Even in the winter, she would hang up clothes to dry, and they smelled so good. I have a drying rack that I got from IKEA, and I put everything on that and I put it on my front step, and because the sun beats in on this side, they dry super fast out there. If it's raining or, too cold, too wet to be outside, then I put that rack in my bathtub and I just hang them there, and I open the bathroom window. Sometimes I'll turn the fan on in there because it'll draws air through, and I just let them dry in there. Not only does it save a ton of money because your dryer will use a lot of power. Anything that has to get hot is going to draw a lot of power, but your clothes will last longer. I will even hang towels to dry. I just did it yesterday. And yes, they are a little crispy when they're dry. So I throw them in my dryer for 5 minutes just to fluff up. If you want to, you can do that. You don't have to. I don't mind that they're a little stiffer. But if you like nice fluffy towels, just throw them in your dryer for 5 to 10 minutes afterwards. It'll still be, and there's usually a cool setting on your dryer anyways. They'll still be nice and fluffy. They will smell good. They will last so much longer. And you will save a ton of money by hanging your clothes to dry. People having dryers in their house, it wasn't something that was around, I don't know, 50 years ago sort of thing. It's something that we take for granted now, but it uses so much electricity and it shortens the lifespan, stretches out, just fades our clothes. Whereas if you hang your clothes to dry, they will last so much longer, and they will smell a whole lot better. Tip number 9, shop secondhand first. Make that your default setting. Scope out, ask, check on Facebook groups, find the best secondhand charity shops, thrift stores in your area, and then start there. Always go there first. It's the fantastic place to find small kitchen appliances, dishware, clothes, kids' toys, all sorts of stuff you can find at thrift store, charity shops for half to a third, a quarter of the price. It's amazing, right? What have I bought? I bought a George Foreman grill for $5, which is fantastic. I've got a little rice cooker that I think I got for $4. What else have I bought there? Crock pot. I got my crock pot for I think $3 or $4, maybe $5. One of my best scores at the thrift store was the winter coat that I wear. You've probably seen it. It's a red one. It's a Reebok one. It is waterproof. It is super cool. And I love it. And I got it for $14 at the thrift store. Such a great score because that jacket would have been a couple $100. And it was in great shape. Gave it a wash just in case, and I have used it ever since, and it will last me forever. That habit alone will save you so much money because you can find so many great things at the thrift store. Clothes that are gently used and that are new to you. So they give you the satisfaction of having something new without having spent a bunch of money. And you never know what you're going to find, which is kind of the fun as well. And also when you find these great shops, then you know where you can donate your stuff to. Because we all have stuff that we have bought that we either no longer want, never use, or you know what, bought it for the wrong reason. Donate it so somebody else can love it. A bonus thought here is also, instead of buying tools, ladders, things like that, ask your neighbors, ask your family, ask your friends if you can borrow something. Ask if you can borrow one, right? You don't need to buy this. You don't even need to rent it from a rental shop. Likely somebody, your neighbor or something like that, has one. And then when they need something, they can borrow it from you. Get to know your library. Spend time in your library. Borrow books. Some places will let you borrow passes to national parks and things like that. I don't know how that works because that's not something that we do here, but I have heard that that's a thing as well for public libraries in other countries. Spend time at your local library. It's a great place to hang out. Borrow and trade things with your neighbors, your friends, your family, and always default to looking and shopping secondhand first for the things you do need to buy, because you will save so much money, and it is a fun thing to do as well. All right, number 10, the final tip on my list, my practical frugality habits list, is learn a new skill. Try and do it yourself. Become a do-it-herselfer if you're female, because you'll be amazed at how many things you can do. There is so much that we pay other people to do for us that we can do ourselves if we just learned how to do it. And you can learn almost anything on YouTube University. And by YouTube University, I mean just YouTube. There isn't an actual YouTube University that I know of. I have learned to do so many things on YouTube. And once you learn to do something, now you have a skill that has saved you so much money, and you can also trade that skill, help somebody else out so that when you need their help, you can ask for it. Here's some of the things that I've done myself that I saved money on. A lot of these that I learned on YouTube University. I have replaced the toilet. Never done that before. Learned how to do that. I have laid floor tile. I have changed a light fixture. I took an old ceiling fan off and put in an actual light fixture. I have replaced a plug. I've replaced a tap on a sink. I have painted lots of walls. I've replaced the cabin air filter and the engine air filter in the van when I had it. There's so many things that you can do that, as long as you're physically able to do it safely. Obviously, you know, if you have mobility issues, if you're at an age where you don't want to be climbing a ladder or messing around with that stuff, if you're not comfortable with it, that's totally different. But maybe there's a family friend or a neighbor that will help you, that does know how to do it, and will sort of help walk you through, help you do it, so you don't have to pay somebody else to do it. And then now you know. Once I learned how easy so many of these things were, I was just shocked, because it sounds so intimidating, and yet once you do it yourself, you're like, this isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Make it your default to at least doing some research and seeing how hard it is, and can you do this yourself? Because if you can do it yourself, you will save a fortune. You'll still have to buy materials, but they won't be marked up twice. And you will save the labor costs. You will have the satisfaction of having done it yourself, and so many of the things that we that we pay other people to do, we can do ourselves for a fraction of the cost if we're able to, if we're comfortable doing it, and we have the physical ability. So always default to that if you can. And again, you will now have a skill that you can use to help other people, to trade for other things. And sometimes when we learn to do things ourselves, it becomes a hobby that we can then make money at. Think of skills as, currency, because instead of paying somebody else, you've now developed this skill and you get to keep those little dollars in your pockets, your pocketsies, as Gollum would say. And I think that that's a great thing. All of these tips are straightforward, simple to implement. Now, some of them do require time. And so you're basically trading time for money when you're paying somebody else to do it. And some of us don't have the ability to have the time. When you have figured out how much you earn per hour after tax, and then you're looking at spending money on something, you'll now know how many hours do you need to work to pay for that thing, right? Is it going to be 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, a full day? If you decide it's worth it to you and you have all of your bases covered, okay, it's your money, right? You can do whatever you want with it. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. But for me, when I think of that, more often than not, I'm like, yeah, that's not worth it. I don't love work that much that I want to work for 3 hours to pay for this thing that I don't really need and just want because it's new, shiny, I saw it on TikTok, whatever, right? That's for me. If it was an experience, it might be worth it because I value experiences so much more than things. But even then, right, is when I think about what it costs to go to a movie theater now, and I love movies, it's hard. It's hard to spend that money. Making intentional decisions about how we spend our money and what we do with it is the key here. Your dollars are your employees. And those employees need to be working for you, not just sort of pissing off and disappearing. And that's what happens when we spend unintentionally, where we just are not paying attention. Our employees are just messing around. They're just disappearing. And I don't like that. I worked hard for my money. I want my money to work hard for me, which means that I want to know what it's doing. I want to be putting it towards something for the future. And that's what this does, right? It's not depriving us of a comfortable life. Still living a very comfortable life. It's not depriving us of joy or time with our family and friends. I still get to do that. And I'm still more than willing to spend money on the things that matter. So if I'm going to go visit a loved one, if I'm going to go do an activity, if I'm going to spend money on buying supplies for a hobby that I love, happy to do that because I've been very intentional about how I'm spending money on the things that I don't care. I don't care if it's name brand. I don't care if that's secondhand. Practical frugality will allow you to live a happy, rich life now while still taking care of our future. I have everything that I need, absolutely everything that I need. I am very fortunate. And I have most of what I want. All of the very important things that I want, I have. And I make sure that my wants are reasonable, that they're wants because I want them, not because society tells me I should want them. I am not influenced by the media, by commercials, or what other people have. Practical frugality is now just part of who I am, and it's not extreme. We can have a rich and meaningful and intentional life and spend our money in ways that take care of us now and in the future and all of the people that we have in our care, and not leave us feeling deprived, stressed, and anxious. And I think that is the key. None of this needs to be complicated. It just needs us to be aware and have a plan. Whew, that was a lot. And it's getting warm in here because I have my window open, my blinds open to get some light in here. So I'm going to go close these because it's getting warm. Hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're staying safe. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, including to yourself. I love you, and I'll see you next time.